We're playing today with an opal.
Solder would melt. It's very helpful to do, so I totally recommend that. I really prefer it that way. I have all control.
Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will play with colors, and I am very excited about that because I truly miss colors and mixing them and my jewelry as well. Usually I keep on one color when I'm creating something. I want to accentuate the stone or something like that, or just play with metal itself. But it's about time to mix more colors. We're playing today with an opal. In that opal, we have so many colors that it would be rude to choose just one. I decided to create small tube settings around it and complement it with colors that we have in that opal, all that sparkle, and I have a vision, and we go.
And we're starting everything with half round wire, which we made in videos before, so I will tag that if you want all measurements and how I put the pattern on. I always tend to overlap when I'm working with wires if I need something round, because it's way easier to connect that way and we're not putting that much stress on a ring itself when we're trying to make the shape happen after soldering. It connects very beautifully after cutting this way, but I always come back and cut again just to have that perfect connection. And while we're cutting the ring, I want to announce that this video is sponsored by GRANDE, which I'm very thankful about. And I have a code for you that you could use for $20 off your shipping price. And now we're making a bezel setting for that beautiful opal. This time I chose 0.4 millimeter thickness, but you can totally use whatever you prefer. I just wanted a bit more structure here. And while I'm making bezels, I always start with corners, because when we have a corner right, then it's way easier to wrap it around and have that roundness too on the bottom. And of course we have to create that tension in the wire back because the wire was soft, just we could create that bezel setting. And now we have two parts of the ring that we could solder. We're making a circle first, heating the piece itself all the way through, and then focusing the flame on the joint where we want that solder would melt. Now when we have them soldered, we can prepare our bezel setting that it would fit, and we could solder that on a plate as well. For that we need to snugly hug our opal and create a flat bottom. The easiest way how to do that, just to put wet and dry paper on the flat surface and just sand it that evenly. Now we need to prepare those tube settings for our faceted stones to be soldered on the same plate as we will be soldering our bezel setting. When we have that cut, we need to cut actual plate for our settings would be soldered on. And I always do that on a new plate because it's flat. It's the flattest thing that you can get. This one is 24 gauge, which is 0.5 millimeters. And when I'm working with soldering few pieces on the same plate, usually if it's very close to each other, I will separate my soldering in steps. So I'm beginning with a bezel setting. I want to not have any gap around it. We want very beautiful soldering in every step we can get. So separating that in parts, it's very helpful to do. So I totally recommend that. And when we have that bezel soldered beautifully, then we can go and solder other parts we want to solder. In this case, we have that tube setting. To have something under is very helpful because we can spread our flame more evenly and we need to heat up the bottom more. And then focus our flame on the parts we need to solder. Now we need to cut that out. So for that, I'm using Sharpie to draw a line where I actually need to saw it out. My Sharpie was too wide. I really don't like it, but it usually helps to keep your eye on the contour because we don't want to hit our bezel with our saw. That's not nice to do. And we don't want to leave too much of the metal as well because then we have way more filing after. On this style, I wanted to not have any lines. Sometimes we choose a style where we're leaving some edge around, but usually I don't tend to do that. Now the filing part. It's easier to go with files first than to go with other abrasive wheels or whatever you use for sanding because file will never leave that many marks that these kind of abrasives would do. So I prefer go with files first and it takes way quicker as well. And then I'm using harsher abrasive, as you saw there, just to correct my angles. And then I'm using some silicone wheels on top just to make everything smooth and beautiful without any lines. Now when we have that ready, we need to make sure our ring is ready as well. For that, we're cleaning all the solder that we have on a ring left. When the ring is flat, we can go on a mandrel and correct the shape that it would be perfectly round. Now when the ring is ready, it's very important to have a flat space for our setting would be soldered on. And it's very crucial not to put your settings on a soldering joint. So we're flattening the space on the opposite sides of the ring and we're preparing a good flat spot for our setting to be soldered on. If you're working with a third hand and sometimes it is a struggle to maneuverate with all of the positioning, I always recommend to go with third hand first, make 90 degrees and then correct the bezel under. It will be way easier and quicker. For this part, I was using silicone wheels just to correct any left solder on my piece. So it's very customized polishing for everyone because I don't know, maybe you did a perfect job and you don't have any solder marks or fire scale. And just finishing off with radial discs here. After a few radial discs, I went with Tripoli and Rouge compounds as well, just to have it a bit more shine and smoothness. To set the Opal in, I was using just my square bezel pusher and a planishing hammer. I really prefer it that way. I have all control and I really love that activity too. And for the tubing setting, we need to use drills.
we created a very sparkly, colorful, and truly gorgeous ring. And that tubing setting with all of those colors, I mean, like, you know, I'm like really happy I chose colors this time. You know, in jewelry, it's so easy to go just for white stones because it's very classical choice, but for this one, you know, I had to choose color. I love color on this. I hope this piece will inspire you to create more colorful pieces, to, you know, get that imagination going. And yeah, I hope you like it, and I will see you in my next one.